Yeah, it's gonna be pretty gangly and inferior, and start with like that mold, and work from there. Time to put the thyroid gland away again. But that is cracking bones. It's breaking every bone in the body and walking around on its toes. And that's how I deal with my enemies. All right, there shouldn't be enemies roaming around. All right, because I'll break every bone in their body and leave them somewhere where they can't get back up. Do you see another way to go about that? A wild boar just shows up carrying fucking helium, being the goddamn devil. A bunch of wild boars show up carrying helium, being the goddamn devil, and it'll take you down to hell with it. The boars, that is the hottest place in existence to exist right there. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm all about adaptations. I like to eat um, the game, the game meat and stuff like that for its adaptations. Um, you know what I'm saying? So other than that, I just wouldn't go for elk. I wouldn't go for the elk, and I wouldn't go for um, more wild boar. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna hurt nothing, but it is forever like going backwards in time, um, and eating the food. To me, it doesn't make any difference because it's gonna be deworming. Um, and it makes the bones and the teeth more adapted. You know what I'm saying? Swordfish, for instance, eating swordfish. All right, that is an adaptation to the environment. You know what I'm saying? So these things that are passed on from people, they're spiritual. They're spiritual and they're forever part of bonding, adapting, evolution. And then also understanding um, something that people may not understand. You know, there ain't gonna be much there, and that's kind of what's left to people. What's left to people is they can use some healthy fat. They can cook with some healthy animal fat, and they keep the healthy animal fat and the lard and stuff like that to cook with. You know what I'm saying? So we're not getting roasted. All right. You know what I'm saying? So I prefer coconut oil. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, I just look at it as the predator is a predator and it's trying to piss people off. And I'd rather peel its wig back and its bones and its skull and its bones and its teeth and stomp it the fuck out, chop its head off. All right, a predator is like that. All right, a predator is forever, uh, you know, crazy. All right, it's a fucking spaz. All right, a wild boar is on another level of being a fucking spaz that people do not understand, and then its mind races like that, um, and all throughout history with predators and stuff like that, it's always hijacking the left cerebral cortex. All right, and things like that. So to me, I just look at it as an adaptation. If it's that much of a it's not humane. You know what I'm saying? It is no longer humane. It's not something that's rabid, and we wouldn't eat that. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, um, by the time the sun comes back out, those environments and stuff like that, there isn't going to be anything living, growing. It tears shit up. It carries helium. You know what I mean? The whole thing on the inside, all right, is embalming itself. Like what animals keep doing. They keep hopping up and they keep trying to embalm themselves, and then they embalm everything around them and stuff like that. And that's what we don't carry in our body anymore. You know what I'm saying? So something as simple as taking the peppermint and just hanging it upside down and letting the peppermint cure is the same thing. We're gonna chop off a pig's head, all right, and that's the guillotine. And then we're gonna hang that up like that and drain the blood out of it, and then we're gonna take from the the healthy organelle. All right. It doesn't make any difference whether it's from, you know, that animal, but we can't eat 30-year-old cans of lard. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just putting pork in a can, all right, and then it's going to be lard, and it's like, your body doesn't bond to it, it doesn't adapt to it, it doesn't really make any difference. It would make more sense to cook, in the fat. You know what I'm saying? Cook with bacon fat, or have the turkey, or have the my favorite is beef. My favorite is bison and beef. Um, because it's really good for the bones. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I'm not mad at all bison and buffalo. I'm not mad at humane animals. But those ones that end up as food, they're not humane. All right, they're not behaving as humane and stuff like that. I mean, even these birds that I have birds, I have chickens in there. All right, even those chickens are humane. You know what I mean? They're not. They don't behave like that, so that doesn't happen. Um, and that wouldn't be my first choice of survival. Um, and that's kind of what they did is they carried that, and then they started shedding the breast and the tissue. You know what I'm saying? So like that just keeps growing on them, and it's forever cycling chicken. You know what I mean? Chicken, pork, and beef. It's just everything's forever cycling that because a cow can't stand there no more. All right. I mean that's the end of it. They where this starts happening is on the underbelly. All right, down here because the animal's walking around in a ganglier environment, and then eventually if it's strong enough, all right, it's strong enough and it's adapted enough, but then it is so it is so bad where it is trying to stand, and then it can't stand up because it's inferior. All right, that would then be the inferior parts of the animal that we're not going to keep or use and stuff like that. All right, and then we have you know a world of bones, a world of like dog bones and stuff like that. So um, it's pretty much what I do. I chew on a bone. You know, I have a bone right here, and that bone doesn't get too hot, and then this bone doesn't get too hot, and it doesn't rise and accelerate. It's potassium iodate, more kelp iodine, more of these things to be dealing with the double helix there in the sun, all right, in the heat, because then I can rise above that, and I can't just start walking around embalming your flesh, all right. I can actually find the predator, I can find the problem, I can actually have that isolated, um, or I can get big and puffy and strong and flame retardant and start blasting at something that shouldn't be carrying some heat. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, or infection. You know what I'm saying? Something that is just a nuisance to society. It does need to be dealt with in some way, and that would be, why we as culture um, develop to be this. We develop to be humane, and not cannibal like, and then we are sparing with the resources, you know what I'm saying? But the resources are bountiful, all right? And then I only, depending on what I'm doing, I only take what I need. And I can live off oats and grain, and wheat is probably your best bet um to be cycling. You know what I'm saying? Wheat germ, um, whole wheat bread, grains and stuff like that are great as well. I'm just saying your best bet when it comes to time and dealing with some bread is using whole grains, and wheat and stuff like that because it's the strongest, it's the most resistant. It is giving you a coat, it is building your coat with the germ there, and then it is bonding and patching. Um, and it happens to be, like rice hulls and stuff like that. That happens to be the strongest stuff, and I like to eat things like that. I like grains, fiber, cholesterol that is healthy, and I just get healthy cholesterol from some nuts, some macadamia nut oil, or um, you know, having a bag of mixed nuts and honey roasted peanuts, and living in a kosher world would mean We would have to sit here in the heat and try to figure out how to grow our own peanut plants. You know what I'm saying? And if it is so goddamn hot, I don't really think a peanut plant is going to be growing. You know what I mean? It's so goddamn hot. I can grow. I got seeds for jalapenos. I don't think a jalapeno is going to show up. You know what I'm saying? I just do not. I got mesclun lettuce and spinach and some kush and some of the poppy plants that are growing, and we can check them out at nighttime. Um, so I greenhoused them because they're doing better. They're growing better around the peppermint. So the peppermint is growing around it and protecting it because the peppermint is the strongest. Um, and once they take root and they spread like that, and it has the conditions to grow, then it will keep adapting and bonding. You know what I'm saying? So let's see here. I gotta get the flashlight. And it's so hot with line of sight not there no more. And that's how everything works with line of sight. Those people are so goddamn hot with shit. And it's extremely aggravating, you know? And I'm still forever the night guy that watches over everything. And I like to live a normal life just like everybody else, but they don't let me. You know what I'm saying? I like to indulge and have a decent time, just like anybody else. But I don't get to do that because I'm stuck babysitting everybody who's trying to be a ganglia problem. They don't pay their goddamn bills. They don't pay for anything. They don't let us finish our job at work because that is how I pay you. You know what I'm saying? I pay you by actually making it to the bank and clearing a check. All right. Now after many counts of arson and so many disasters, we don't have a name, an identity, an alias, and everything is expired. All right, and that has to be returned, and those charges are still filed as larceny. The charges are still filed against the bar in the society as grand larceny. So everybody was on the spot collecting their pay or trying to collect their pay, and they got charged for armed robbery and grand larceny. It's doing pretty good. This is the greenhouse. I'm going to shield it in like that so it's not so hot up top. And that is where opium came from. Opium came from some people like that that were already harvesting that. And the bees actually did always show up. And let's return that to the illotibial band there. Just peeling back wigs of wild boars and stuff like that, and cracking open its bones and teeth, and chopping its head off and removing it from the ecosystem. The usual stuff that your cerebral cortex knows about. You know what I'm saying? It does understand these things of things like that would creep up from under the earth, and do become predatory because your mind is like a weapon. You know what I'm saying? If we put tools around here, such as this, if we put tools around here and we taught you about hunting and gathering, you would understand about how a human being's C-spine works, how a human being is chambered, like containers and stuff like that. And the best way to go about that is understanding that that's hunting and gathering, and then developing a human being that is like a weapon. All right, you know what I'm saying? The liver. All right, the liver is like a weapon. Okay, that is what the liver does. Okay, the limbic system, it is like a weapon. You know what I'm saying? The thyroid gland is like a weapon. These are things that can be functional, and active to be doing something. All right, but when they are abusing that, then we can't let them have that. You know what I'm saying? When they're overweight, all right, they are abusing things. They're lazy. They are neglectful. All right, so we took that away. All right, those are the sins. Those are the seven deadly sins. Those are the sins of man. You know what I'm saying? That's the hearts of man. And I'm not the heart of man. I'm part of God, and stuff like that. And then God does actually keep living and existing and surviving the nonsense. Um, and that's just understanding spiritual, things like the Kabbalah, understanding that how that's a spiritual breakdown of things like that. And that's just something that is, well understood. And things that do aggravate people is when people behave like that. They make people be their workers, and then they don't actually let people collect the money. All right, so it's being a felon. It's people being felons, and then they're going to be charged by me, um, and they're going to keep cycling around trying to cause the death or the arrest of something. And I actually do have to have them surrendered. They got to turn their keys over. They got to put it on the table, and they have to, respect graces in 72 hours of people's lives, because they can't sit there at the cash register at the gas station no more. They've been sitting there getting roasted on the spot at the you know what I'm saying? That is where we're counting this, at the spot, at the cash registers and the locations. And then all the stuff that's trying to be machines. You're trying to sit there and feed a bunch of machines the money. All right. You know what a cash machine, it's a fucking wild boar. All right. You're going to the goddamn store and you're putting money in this machine. All right. And it's just eating up your goddamn money. All right, which is a felony. Okay, it's a felony to set that stuff up and not let people collect what belongs to them and have that return. That is larceny. That is grand larceny. All right, and then all the banks are shut down. Everything's bankrupt again. They're still trying to sit there and be at the bars, and cycle around the same nonsense and get away with robbing the flesh of a human being and being fat and fucking lazy. It's the same bullshit when I actually have a job to do, and it's charging you for arson. It's charging you for grand larceny. It's charging you for armed robbery. By the time we went back to work and we cycled all that, that's what that stuff is doing. All right, and if they're not doing their job, then I'm holding them at gunpoint, and they're going to be charged by tonight. All right, so that's racketeering. That's the criminal act of racketeering. And then on a higher scale, that's grand larceny, and then that's military tribunals, and I will kill you. All right, physically, if you are trying to be invasive, in my territories, anywhere on the properties at all, obstructing my life, and the law enforcement and stuff like that, they ain't doing their job. They're being lazy and stuff like that. I will kill them. All right. There is no resting on that stuff. There's no paying off FBI bones. It's forever cycling. You have that stuff returned, or you're looking at being carried to your death. You know what I'm saying? You physically will have your neck turned around, and you will be taken to the grounds, and you will be repeatedly shot at. Um, and things like that. So when it comes to actually having this job and people cycle fucking hell, and torture people and stuff like that, that is physically what we do, and we're in position to be, um, still doing it. And the people that made these appearances or tried to live like that and make up a bunch of excuses, we charge them with the maximum penalty for the death sentence, and that's it. That's final. They can't return to the grounds. They can't have a job there. They're constantly trying to cycle felonious behavior. They keep living like that and like that, and it's just to get on my goddamn last nerve. And I'm the person that's sitting here doing security, and you ain't paying me to do security. I'm the person that's here to collect the actual piece of paper that clears something, or it does pass that on so people can move on. But you're choosing that. You're choosing to share in the suffering and the torturing of other people. So I will shoot at you and I will have you charged and I will have your neck turned away and taken to the ground. And that's what's going to be going on for the rest of your life. You try to take my life, you try to take my position as husband, you try to take my position as security, you try to take my position as an adult, you try to take my position as operating businesses, you try to repeatedly fucking kill me and torture me. So I have your neck turned around with every goddamn rifle, and I will keep driving you away. I will keep driving you and taking you to the grounds, and I will keep shooting at you and charging you for tampering. And if those people don't want to do their goddamn job and listen to the orders for Homeland Security and law enforcement and stuff like that, I will keep spinning their goddamn neck around and taking them to the ground, and they can't reach out for something abrasive anymore. They can't carry and handle that stuff anymore. They'll be charged as a felon for tampering with anything, including my property, my money, my things, and repeatedly trying to get away with capital murder. All right, so that is actually the arrest warrants that they do have, and they're trying to hide out and never pay for stuff. All right, so that's called grand larceny. All right, and then when we get on the phone here to be operating that stuff, I'm already repossessing everything and then having it charged for the crimes, which is war crimes. Or either way, you would be sitting there in fucking hell with people trying to cycle a blitzkrieg and tampering with heavy lead and trying to, you know what I'm saying? Either way, people are going to goddamn fucking hell um, if we do not do these things properly. If you do not honor and understand this count of how that works here with some bones and a C spine and a goddamn rifle and a heavy bag vest in a world that needs to be flame retardant, and not larcenist. All right, because larcenist is all Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. All right, all Nazi bullshit. All right, and body snatcher stuff. All right, human mutilation, sharing in the suffering and the torturing of you. I'm not gonna let you live like that. I'll shoot at you. All right, I'd rather fucking kill you than to ever let you get up and walk around and exist with society like that. All right, because either way, you'll be going to hell with a goddamn lynch mob, and you'll be wanting to fucking kill yourself. All right, or they'll just be around each other trying to, you know, do some crazy, crazy, crazy stuff, and they've always been like that. And that's why I don't return to those jobs and those places. Um, because they try to make us be their little bitch around here and clean up after their messes, and they don't ever pay for them, so they get shot at. All right, and I dropped heavy flame retardants on their existence. I dropped 405 pounds of 50 caliber armor piercing rounds on them repeatedly, and they can't share the grounds anymore. Because they tried to be engaged in a conflict with FBI bones. They were warned many times. Um, that this is a priority first, especially me being their husband. They face the maximum penalty for the death sentence, and they can't be anywhere on the grounds of the properties right now, and they are. You know what I'm saying? So we're set up in a different position, and I can't stand the bitches. All right, I can't stand the goddamn females. I can't stand existence in society. I would rather have them shot at and charged for tampering. Now for the rest of my life, my job is still going to be going in that direction, and it is going to be now lethal. Those are non-lethal warnings, and next is using lethal. All right, because it's trying to be ganglier, it's trying to be rabid, it's trying to spread the gang. It's trying to be Nazis. All right, it's trying to be larcenists. So for the rest of my life now, it's going to be those lethal defenses that will keep you quarantined or marshaled away. And it will eventually kill you. It will eventually spread through your body and kill you for trying to carry that. And then that stuff has to be removed from the person, and whatever it is you were messing with or whoever you were around, you are carbon dated as felon, criminal, uh, fugitive, etc. Instead of listening and cooperating with the person that is in charge.